Warning: this video contains details of real crime cases. Watch with caution. If you're a fan of true crime investigations and want to follow more stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any case. In the quiet suburb of Oakwood, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, lived Brandon Callahan, a promising 18-year-old whose life was tragically cut short. A senior at Oakwood High School, Brandon was known for excelling both in his studies and extracurricular activities. His passion for automobiles shone brightest in his advanced auto mechanics course, where he consistently impressed his instructors with his natural talent and dedication. Brandon's dream was to one day open his own auto repair shop. It wasn't uncommon to find him in his family's garage, hands covered in grease, meticulously working on engines. His friends often joked that he could diagnose a car problem just by listening to the engine's purr or sputter. This wasn't far from the truth, as Brandon's intuitive understanding of mechanics had already earned him a reputation in the neighborhood as the go-to guy for quick fixes and sound advice. But Brandon's life wasn't all about cars and studies. At home, he was the primary caregiver for his grandmother, Eleanor, who had lost her sight to macular degeneration. Despite the demands of school and his passion projects, Brandon never faltered in his commitment to Eleanor. He would read to her daily, describe the world around them on their short walks, and ensure she took her medications on time. His devotion to his grandmother was a testament to his character, earning him respect from both young and old in the community. Romance also played a significant role in Brandon's life. For the past 2 years, he had been in a relationship with Amber Johnson, a fellow senior at Oakwood High. The young couple was often seen walking hand in hand through Willow Park or sharing milkshakes at Rosie's Diner, the local hangout spot. Their relationship seemed picture-perfect to outsiders, with talks of attending the same college and eventually getting married. They represented the all-American high school sweethearts, their future seemingly bright and full of promise. However, beneath this idyllic surface lurked a dark secret that would ultimately lead to Brandon's downfall. Unbeknownst to Amber and the rest of the community, Brandon had become entangled in a forbidden relationship with Amber's mother, Veronica Johnson. At 43, Veronica was a well-known figure in Oakwood, primarily due to her successful local cosmetics company, Luminous Beauty. Veronica, with her charismatic personality and youthful appearance, had always attracted attention. But her interest in Brandon crossed a line that would have shocked the community had they known. The illicit affair between Brandon and Veronica was conducted in utmost secrecy, with clandestine meetings and hushed phone calls. Brandon found himself torn between his love for Amber and the intense, passionate encounters with Veronica. As the secret relationship deepened, so did the web of lies and deceit. Brandon struggled to maintain his perfect image: the devoted grandson, the loving boyfriend, the hard-working student, while hiding his involvement with Veronica. The stress of living this double life began to take its toll, causing sleepless nights and moments of panic that he struggled to conceal. Little did Brandon know that this secret affair would soon spiral out of control, leading to a violent and disturbing end that would shake the foundations of the peaceful Oakwood community and leave an indelible mark on all those involved. The morning of August 12, 2021, began like any other in the quiet town of Oakwood. However, it would soon become a day etched in the community's collective memory. Eleanor Callahan, Brandon's blind grandmother, sensed something amiss. The usual sounds of Brandon's morning routine, the creaking of floorboards, the clinking of dishes, the soft hum of the coffee maker, were eerily absent. Concerned, Eleanor reached for her phone and called Martha Simmons, their next-door neighbor. Martha, a retired nurse with a reputation for level-headedness, agreed to check on Brandon. As she approached the Callahan residence, nothing seemed out of place. The neatly trimmed lawn and the gleaming red Chevy Nova in the driveway, Brandon's pride and joy, gave no hint of the horror that awaited inside. Martha used her spare key to enter the house, calling out Brandon's name as she stepped inside. The silence that greeted her was oppressive, broken only by the steady ticking of the grandfather clock in the living room. As she moved further into the house, a metallic odor assaulted her senses, causing her stomach to churn with dread. Following her instincts, Martha made her way to Brandon's bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and with trembling fingers, she pushed it open. The scene that greeted her was one that would haunt her for years to come. Brandon's body lay on the floor, surrounded by a pool of crimson that had seeped into the cream-colored carpet. His clothes were saturated with blood, and multiple stab wounds were visible on his torso. But it was his face that made Martha recoil in horror. His eyes were almost completely gouged out, leaving dark, empty sockets that seemed to stare accusingly at the ceiling. Fighting the urge to flee, Martha steadied herself against the doorframe and pulled out her phone. With shaking hands, she dialed 911. Her voice, usually calm and assured, came out in a strangled whisper as she reported the gruesome discovery to the dispatcher. Within minutes, the quiet street was filled with the wailing of sirens as police cars and an ambulance converged on the Callahan house. Officers quickly secured the scene, their faces grim as they took in the brutality of the crime. Detective Jack Morrison, a veteran of the Oakwood Police Department, arrived shortly after, his partner, Detective Lisa Chen, close behind. As crime scene technicians began their meticulous work, Detectives Morrison and Chun started their preliminary investigation. The savagery of the attack suggested a crime of passion, possibly committed by someone Brandon knew. The lack of forced entry supported this theory, indicating that Brandon may have willingly let his killer into the house. The detective's attention was drawn to a small detail: Brandon's prized collection of vintage car magazines, usually neatly arranged on his desk, was scattered across the floor. Several were stained with bloody fingerprints, hinting at a possible struggle or the killer's frantic search for something. As word of the murder spread, shock waves rippled through Oakwood. Neighbors gathered behind the police tape, their faces masks of disbelief and horror. Brandon Callahan, the boy they had watched grow up, the young man who helped them with their car troubles and cared for his blind grandmother, was gone. The brutal nature of the crime shattered the town's sense of security. Parents held their children closer. Doors that were once left unlocked were now bolted shut, and a palpable tension hung in the air. As the sun set on that fateful day, the residents of Oakwood struggled to comprehend how such violence could erupt in their peaceful community, unaware that the shocking revelations were far from over. As the investigation into Brandon Callahan's murder unfolded, Detectives Jack Morrison and Lisa Chun found themselves delving into a web of secrets that lay beneath Oakwood's placid surface. The brutality of the crime suggested a deeply personal motive, leading the detectives to scrutinize Brandon's relationships more closely. Their inquiry quickly led them to Veronica Johnson, mother of Brandon's girlfriend Amber and owner of the local cosmetics company, Luminous Beauty. Initial interviews with Veronica raised red flags for the experienced detectives. Her answers seemed rehearsed, her demeanor alternating between extreme distress and unsettling calm. When questioned about her whereabouts on the night of the murder, Veronica provided a flimsy alibi, claiming she had been working late at her office, an alibi that proved difficult to corroborate. As the detectives dug deeper, they uncovered a trail of evidence pointing towards an illicit relationship between Veronica and Brandon. Anonymous tips led them to a secluded motel on the outskirts of town, where the staff confirmed frequent visits by a couple matching their descriptions. Digital forensics revealed a series of encrypted messages on Brandon's phone, which, when decrypted, exposed the full extent of their clandestine affair. The breakthrough in the case came when the detectives executed a search warrant on Veronica's home and office. Hidden in a locked drawer in her bedroom, they discovered a collection of items that painted a disturbing picture of obsession. Dozens of photographs of Brandon, some taken without his knowledge, were meticulously arranged in a scrapbook. Love letters, never sent, expressed Veronica's growing infatuation and possessiveness. Most damning of all was a strand of Brandon's hair, carefully preserved in a small vial. However, the investigation took an unexpected turn when suspicion also fell on Amber Johnson, Brandon's girlfriend. Initially devastated by Brandon's death, Amber's behavior began to raise questions. Her alibi for the night of the murder, that she had been at a sleepover with her friend Sarah Thompson, started to crumble under scrutiny. Sarah, when interviewed separately, appeared nervous and evasive, eventually admitting that Amber had asked her to lie about her whereabouts. Further investigation revealed that Amber had discovered her mother's affair with Brandon just days before the murder. Witness accounts described a heated argument between Amber and Brandon outside Rosie's diner the night before his death. Surveillance footage from a gas station near the Callahan residence showed a hooded figure, matching Amber's build, walking briskly in the direction of Brandon's house in the early hours of the morning when the murder was believed to have occurred. As the evidence mounted, the detectives found themselves facing the possibility of not one, but two suspects, each with a compelling motive. Veronica, driven by obsession and the fear of her affair being exposed, and Amber, potentially acting out of jealousy and betrayal. The case, which had initially seemed straightforward, had evolved into a complex puzzle of love, betrayal, and deadly secrets. The detectives knew they needed to tread carefully. One wrong move could jeopardize the entire investigation and allow a killer to walk free. As they prepared for the next phase of the investigation, Morrison and Chun realized that unraveling the truth would require them to navigate the treacherous waters of mother-daughter relationships, teenage emotions, and adult obsessions. The peaceful facade of Oakwood had been shattered, revealing the dark undercurrents that had been flowing beneath the surface all along. The investigation into Brandon Callahan's murder took a dramatic turn when the Oakwood Police Department received an anonymous tip. The caller, whose voice was disguised, claimed that Veronica Johnson's cosmetics company, Luminous Beauty, was involved in fraudulent activities. This new information added another layer of complexity to an already intricate case. Detectives Morrison and Chun, acting on this lead, obtained a warrant to search Veronica's business premises. What they discovered there would prove to be the pivotal moment in the investigation. Hidden behind a false wall in Veronica's private office, they found a small room that could only be described as a shrine to Brandon Callahan. The walls were covered with photographs of Brandon, ranging from candid shots taken from a distance to intimate pictures that suggested a physical relationship. Handwritten notes detailing Brandon's daily routines were pinned alongside the photos. A calendar marked with red circles coincided with dates of their secret meetings. The centerpiece of this disturbing display was a life-sized cardboard cutout of Brandon, adorned with lipstick marks. But it wasn't just the shrine that incriminated Veronica. The detectives also uncovered financial records that corroborated the anonymous tip about fraud. It appeared that Luminous Beauty had been a front for money laundering operations, with significant sums of money moving through shell companies. As the detectives pieced together the evidence, a clearer picture of the events leading up to Brandon's murder began to emerge. Veronica, trapped in a web of illegal activities and obsessive love, had become increasingly unstable. The threat of exposure, both of her affair with Brandon and her fraudulent business practices, had pushed her to the brink. Forensic analysis of the items found in the hidden room provided the final pieces of evidence needed. DNA from the lipstick marks matched Veronica's, and fibers found on Brandon's body were consistent with the cardboard cutouts material. Most damning of all, a knife discovered behind a loose panel in the room had traces of Brandon's blood, despite attempts to clean it. With this overwhelming evidence, the focus of the investigation shifted decisively towards Veronica Johnson. Amber, while not entirely cleared of suspicion, was no longer considered the primary suspect. The detectives theorized that Veronica, upon learning that Brandon might end their affair or expose her crimes, had snapped, leading to the brutal murder. The revelation of Veronica's hidden room and illegal activities sent shockwaves through Oakwood. The community, already reeling from Brandon's murder, now had to contend with the fact that a respected business owner had been living a double life in their midst. As news of the discovery spread, more people came forward with information. Employees at Luminous Beauty reported Veronica's erratic behavior in the weeks leading up to the murder. Neighbors recalled seeing her car parked near the Callahan residence at odd hours. The case, which had once seemed a baffling mystery, now appeared to be reaching its conclusion. However, the detectives knew that in the justice system, evidence alone is not always enough. They would need to build an airtight case to ensure that Brandon's killer would be brought to justice. As they prepared to make an arrest, Morrison and Chun couldn't help but reflect on the tragic sequence of events that had led to this point. A young life cut short, a family destroyed, and a community's trust shattered. All consequences of one woman's obsession and desperation. The arrest of Veronica Johnson for the murder of Brandon Callahan marked the beginning of a legal process that would captivate the nation. As the case moved to trial, the quiet town of Oakwood found itself thrust into the spotlight. with news vans and reporters becoming a common sight outside the county courthouse. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Sarah Goldstein, presented a compelling case against Veronica. The evidence was damning. The shrine-like room dedicated to Brandon, the murder weapon with traces of the victim's blood, and financial records revealing years of fraudulent activity. Forensic experts testified about the DNA evidence linking Veronica to the crime scene, while financial analysts detailed the extent of her company's illegal operations. Perhaps the most powerful testimony came from Amber Johnson, Veronica's daughter. In a heart-wrenching moment on the stand, Amber recounted discovering her mother's affair with Brandon. She described confronting them both, the betrayal she felt, and the subsequent argument with Brandon the night before his murder. Her alibi for the night in question, once considered suspicious, was now corroborated by multiple witnesses, shifting the focus entirely onto her mother. Veronica's defense team, led by renowned attorney James Hawthorne, attempted to paint a picture of a woman driven to the brink by love and circumstance. They argued that Brandon had manipulated Veronica, using her affection to gain access to her wealth and business connections. Hawthorne suggested that Brandon's death was the result of a confrontation gone wrong, not premeditated murder. However, the prosecution's evidence proved too strong to overcome. The jury was particularly moved by the testimony of Eleanor Callahan, Brandon's blind grandmother. Her poignant description of the last morning she spent with Brandon, unaware it would be their final moments together, left many in the courtroom in tears. After a 3-week trial that gripped the community and the nation, the jury reached a verdict. Veronica Johnson was found guilty of first-degree murder and multiple counts of fraud. The judge, citing the brutality of the crime and the calculated nature of the financial crimes, sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The aftermath of the trial left the town of Oakwood grappling with mixed emotions. While there was a sense of relief that justice had been served, the community struggled to reconcile the Veronica they thought they knew with the woman capable of such heinous acts. For Amber Johnson, the verdict brought little comfort. She had lost not only her boyfriend but also her mother, leaving her to navigate a future irrevocably altered by tragedy. The Johnson family, once respected pillars of the community, now found themselves ostracized, grappling with the consequences of Veronica's actions. The Callahan family, while grateful for the justice served, faced the difficult task of moving forward without Brandon. Eleanor, in particular, felt the loss keenly, often speaking of the silence that now filled their home in Brandon's absence. As the media spotlight faded and life in Oakwood slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, the impact of the case lingered. The community had been forced to confront the reality that even in the most idyllic of settings, darkness can lurk beneath the surface. The tragic tale of Brandon Callahan served as a somber reminder of the devastating consequences of obsession, betrayal, and the human capacity for both love and violence. The tragic story of Brandon Callahan and the subsequent trial of Veronica Johnson left an indelible mark on the town of Oakwood and resonated far beyond its borders. As the dust settled on this harrowing chapter, the community and the nation at large were left to grapple with the profound implications of the case. In the years following the trial, Oakwood underwent a transformation. The once idyllic suburb, known for its low crime rates and tight-knit community, now found itself forced to confront the darker aspects of human nature that had been lurking beneath its peaceful facade. Community leaders implemented new programs focused on mental health awareness and support for troubled youth and adults alike, hoping to prevent future tragedies. The case became a cautionary tale, studied in criminology classes across the country. It highlighted the destructive power of obsession and the potential for seemingly upstanding citizens to harbor dark secrets. Law enforcement agencies used the investigation as a case study in the importance of thorough forensic work and the value of community tips in solving complex crimes. Amber Johnson, who had lost both her boyfriend and her mother in the tragedy, became an advocate for victims of familial crimes. She established a foundation in Brandon's name, providing support and resources for young people navigating complex family dynamics and relationship issues. Her strength in the face of unimaginable loss inspired many, and she became a symbol of resilience for the community. The Callahan family, while forever changed by the loss of Brandon, found purpose in continuing his legacy. Eleanor, with the help of community members, established a scholarship fund for aspiring mechanics, ensuring that Brandon's passion for automobiles would continue to inspire future generations. Veronica Johnson's case sparked a national conversation about the nature of justice and rehabilitation. While some argued that her actions were unforgivable, others questioned whether the justice system could have done more to identify and address the underlying issues that led to such a tragic outcome. The debate highlighted the ongoing tension between punishment and rehabilitation in the American criminal justice system. The media frenzy surrounding the case eventually subsided, but its impact lingered. True crime documentaries and books chronicled the events, each attempting to unravel the complex web of emotions and circumstances that led to Brandon's murder. These retellings served as a grim reminder of how quickly life can change and the devastating consequences of unchecked obsession. As years passed, Oakwood slowly began to heal. The Callahan house, once a crime scene, was transformed into a community center, offering programs for at-risk youth. The site of Veronica's former business became a public garden, a place of reflection and remembrance for the community. The tragedy of Brandon Callahan serves as a somber reminder of the complexities of human relationships and the potential for darkness that exists within seemingly ordinary lives. It challenges us to look beyond surface appearances, to be more aware of those around us, and to reach out to those who may be struggling. In the end, the story of Oakwood is one of loss, but also of resilience and renewal. It stands as a testament to the human capacity to find meaning in tragedy and to rebuild in the wake of unthinkable events. The memory of Brandon Callahan, a young life full of promise cut tragically short, continues to inspire those who knew him and those who came to know his story, serving as a poignant reminder of the preciousness and fragility of life.